you're from around here. Is it Santa Barbara?
Santa Barbara,
Okay.
a little beach city. It felt like an island growing up.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and I came to LA when I was 17, and I had a little dream.
So you hadn't been to, really, you hadn't been to Los Angeles?
I had been to Los Angeles.
Okay.
It felt like a big old evil place.
Yeah.
Well,
you're right on that one. Yeah.
It still is a big old evil place.
Yeah, but
yeah, when I was 17, I moved here, and
Okay.
I just hustled my way here
Okay.
to this very couch.
Okay. So when you come back, you go back to, you visit your folks a lot up?
All the time. Whenever I need to like re-energize, regroup,
Right.
I go back to Santa Barbara, and I even wrote "Teenage Dream" and a couple other songs off of the record in Santa Barbara.
Okay. Now here's your folks. Now look at this. Now look at a picture of your dad. Okay. Now I'm thinking Spider-Man movie, Batman movie. No. And he's like the coolest preacher I've ever seen.
He is pretty cool.
Yeah.
He's like Mr. Clean and one of the Hell's Angels put together.
Yeah.
He's actually very, very funny,
Yeah.
and he uses that in his sermons.
Okay.
The real true comedian is my grandmother, and she's in the film. She's 91 years old. She lives in Las Vegas.
Right. Okay. Very cool. So how did?
She has all her marbles plus more.
Well, how did your dad start preaching?
My dad started preaching. He was a hippie. He had hair down to here.
Okay.
And he went to Woodstock, and he did all those things with Timothy Leary. And
Really?
yeah, and he said that when he was picking apples as a job in
Right.
Washington, he opened a Bible and he saw a Bible verse kind of come off the page. And to this day I say, Dad, I think that was still the LSD.
Yeah. Oh, I said right. So
But 35 odd years later,
Yeah.
he still believes.
So how did he meet your mom? Was she in the apple field too?
No,
Where'd
she
go?
wasn't. My mother and my father met in Las Vegas at a revival tent meeting. I don't know if you've ever heard of those.
Oh, sure, I know what that is.
My aunt, who used to be a Folies Bergère topless showgirl,
Oh.
she found the Lord, and she...
Now, did she find the Lord before or after she was a topless showgirl?
After, of course.
After, of course.
And she became a preacher as well, and she
Okay.
would throw these big tent revivals and, you know, do all this preaching on stage,
Okay.
and she's very charismatic,
Okay.
and that's where my parents met.
Oh, that's okay. Now, as a kid, so obviously your dad was a hippie into music, and converts are always the most strict, I think. So you weren't allowed. Were you
Well,
allowed?
he's seen the bad, I'm sure.
Well, were you allowed to listen to rock music when you were a kid?
No, I wasn't really allowed to listen to anything besides gospel music, so I would sneak in different CDs. And one time, the first time I bought a record, it was an Incubus record,
Okay.
and it was the Part of Me Incubus record.
Okay.
And I brought it home in my knapsack, and I had all the things on top of it, so my parents didn't like strip search me.
Right.
And I brought it home. I went into my closet, and I put my little blanket underneath the door crack, and tried to pop open the CD from the holder, and it broke in two like the Ten Commandments.
Wow. Yeah, wow. Well, that's.
And I was like, I'll never do that again.
Wow.
Got to, I'm here.
Well. So, like, what was the worst thing you did as a kid? You sound like you're a pretty straight-laced kid. Did you rebel at all?
I'm probably still rebelling.
Yeah.
But I do remember I asked my mother permission so I could get my nose pierced.
Okay.
And of course she didn't give it to me, and she said it was ridiculous and she wasn't going to do that. So she then went on an errand, and I took a safety pin and a piece of ice, and I pierced my own nose.
Okay.
I'm not crazy at all.
Well, all right. Okay. Well, now the interesting part. So mom comes back. Obviously, you can't just sit at dinner like this. I mean, what happened?
She saw it. She was like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought, because it was just a little diamond.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I still have this horrible scar that everybody
Yeah.
brings up when they get really close.
See now, but did that ruin it for you that your mom liked it? I mean, would you have been more? Would have been
I'm
cooler.
the black sheep of the family.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
always testing the limits of my parents.
Okay.
I can't believe they have survived through all the crap I've put them through, but
Yeah, yeah.
God bless them.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, so what was? Well, you weren't allowed to go to concerts. What was the first concert you went to? Was it as a young adult?
Yeah. I wasn't really allowed to go to concerts, but I snuck into the Radiohead show in Santa Barbara at the Santa Barbara Bowl.
Okay.
And I was 13, and my best friend Eve and I, we snuck in, hoping to get tickets, because they were all sold out, of
Right.
course. And we wore these like leather pants, and we were trying to look
Older.
than 13. And we got in, of course.
Yeah.
And then we got invited backstage, and I had to call my dad, who was waiting for me to get home, and I said, Dad, I've been invited backstage. He's like, you're not going backstage.
Yeah.
I know what goes on backstage. I didn't go backstage.
No, yeah,
But nothing really does go on backstage.
yeah, it does.
Mentored by a really incredible producer named Glenn Ballard. He's responsible for an incredible record by Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill.
Sure.
And I met him. I kind of knocked on his door and played him a song with my acoustic guitar. And he asked me to come to Los Angeles. And he set everything up, and it was great for a while. And then I got the rug pulled out from underneath me. And I think one time, and you see in the movie, my brother reminded me in his interview that I called my brother at 16. He was 16, and I asked to borrow $20 from him. I'm 4 years older than him, and he was like, I don't even have enough money for my own Taco Bell. And Taco Bell is not expensive.
Right.
So it was a bit dark times in Hollywood, but I think it built a little character.
Yeah, it builds character.
Yeah.
So when did it, when did it click? When you reach a point where you go, oh, this is awful, and you're broke, and I know your car gets repossessed and tickets.
A couple of times.
So when did it click? When did you go, hey, maybe this will work?
Well, after a few different record labels signing and dropping me, and they didn't really understand me or my vision because it was always so strong. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And in the movie, you see me talking as a 19-year-old girl before I had any success, and I knew what I wanted to do then. And it was just, I think along the way, I caught a lucky star, and someone believed in me.
Yeah.
This woman named Angelica Cobb, she was at a record label, Columbia Records, which I was on, and we connected so much so, but the guys in the big suits, they didn't get it.
Right.
And so they were going to drop me, and so she stole my files, and she took them to another record label and introduced me to them.
Wow, that's a great story. So tell me about why you decided to do this documentary.
Oh my goodness. Well, I always like to be honest with everything I do, especially my songs. I like to plant those seeds of honesty and truth because we live in a world that doesn't have much of that left. And with this documentary, I wanted to show people kind of like what was underneath the hood.
Yeah.
And you can attest to that.
I've been under the hood many times.
I really wanted to show people how much hard work it takes, the ins and outs, and how really you don't have to be born into a situation. You don't have to come from something or possess something or look flawless, even though I like looking like this sometimes.
Yeah.
You can just be you and have a dream and plant the seed and water the root.
Well, you also show, you show a lot of the tough times too, you know,
Absolutely,
the whole
'cause they
marriage
exist.
thing, yeah.
Just because you're in the spotlight doesn't mean you get to dodge the curveballs. They're actually bigger.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Well, I think that if you were to see the movie and it was completely avoided, you would come out of that theater going, that's strange. I know something else did happen at that time in her life last year. Yeah. So I wanted to handle it very delicately with the most integrity I could possibly have and show people that, like, look, I'm going through some of the same situation that most of America or half of America goes through. And somehow I landed on my feet, and you don't have to lay down and die even if you feel like you're going to.
Well, that's a great role model for people. Sure, I think that's...
I'm all right.
Was it a tough decision, though? Was it a tough decision to make?
It wasn't always exciting to watch those unflattering scenes where I'm crying and having an intense moment. But I think that people will relate to the movie even more, seeing me at my lowest point and now at my highest point.
Where's your favorite place to visit on this tour? You went all over the place.
I went all over the world.
Yeah.
124 shows. But I think one of my favorite things to do and places to be was the last tour date was here at the Staples Center in Los Angeles.
That's all right.
It was the night before Thanksgiving, and I got to rent out the Staples Center completely on my own dime and throw a completely free concert.
Oh, that was great.
And that's where we filmed the show that you see in this movie.
Oh, that's terrific. Now, something I saw some clips. As I said, it wasn't finished when I got it, and I love.
We're still working on it.
I love Grandma. How old's Grandma?
Grandma is 91.
91.
Yes,
okay. She's very funny.
She's funny. My sister got married the other day, and my cousin asked her in front of me, "What do you think of Katy's new purple hair?" And she goes, "Well, it's not all hers." And I said, "Grandma, I paid for it." And she goes, "Where'd you get it? The 99-cent store?"
Oh, whoa. So what do you do?
Grandma.
What do you do when you visit her in Vegas?
Well, she's lived there for over 40 years, 50 years maybe even.
Right.
So she's seen Vegas become Vegas in some
Right.
ways. But she doesn't gamble much, but every once in a while we'll go out to one of those never-ending buffet lines.
Right.
And after that, we'll go and play the penny slots.
Well, yeah, that's right. Well, now you're making money now. You can do the
Yeah.
penny slots. Now tell me about these 3D glasses. You designed these yourself?
Oh, yes. I thought it would be fun to put hearts on the glasses. And I thought it would be really fun because after you do see the movie, you can take these with you and wear them out on the town.
Yeah. And these are 3D glasses. And as you walk on the town, you'll crash into things. Now, what is this clip we're going to see?
Oh, this clip is explaining my grandma and her sense of humor and how it's so messed up.
Let's take a look.
So, what was Katy like as a kid?
Show off.
I'm a show off, I know that.
I know it.
But it's got me
Attention
somewhere.
getter.
This is me.
Acting silly as usual. I remember I went one time to babysit, and I had to keep them a weekend, and that was awful.
Grandma!
Their parents traveled an awful
Yeah.
lot to preach somewhere.
And we turned out okay.
Yes,
Kinda.
as far as I know.
Katy Perry, part of me. It opens July 5th. Katy, oh, it's a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you,
Say hi to
Mr.
Mom and Dad for me.